Welcome to the GMIHub. So, you want to get your song on the radio, do you? Well, putting your song on the radio, back in the day, you send in your music to a commercial radio station or whatever, and you research what stations would play your format of music, of course, and you had to find the right person to contact. And of course, shipping your materials, your promo kits, your CD, sometimes you printed materials and merchandise just to help promote what you've got. Now, 95% of music today, 96% almost, is on digital format. So radio stations have a whole different way of taking care of music. The music directors, program directors, sometimes it's the same person doing both jobs. So we're going to be talking today about how to get your song on the radio. So we are so glad you joined us. Now, before we get going, I just wanted to remind you that we have a website. It's gmihub.ca. If you go on there, you'll check out all the great stuff that we have. And there's some really neat information down there about our upcoming events and things and stuff that I really want you to find out about. And also we have the Hub Happening, and that is our monthly newsletter, which you receive once a month. It goes out. And if you are an artist or producer, or you have an event coming up and you would like the GMI Hub to put it into our Hub Happenings, it's really simple. Just let us know and give us permission to print that, and we will let that information go out under Hub Happenings so you can be a part of our community, because that's what we want to do. We want to celebrate and join together and help people unify in community and unity and talent growth, and those types of things are the kind of things that we want to help to cultivate. So let's get into our conversation, and I'll start off by saying my name is Dale Borland.
And I'm Cheryl Duick. I'm so glad that you're here to join us, or to be with us today. And I'm so glad that we have two wonderful gentlemen with us. Well, three.
Oh, thank you.
I'm just by myself here. We have David Mann here from 100.3 out in Barrie. He is a radio host, a radio personality. He's also a writer, a podcast host. He's a speaker. He's a whole lot more, but we're talking to him with radio. Thank you so much, David, for being here.
Happy to be on.
Awesome. And we also have Courtney Williams. Courtney, there you are. Courtney is a radio show host. Now, with Courtney, the first time I met Courtney was at a cafe, and he basically said, I've been in the radio business for over 25 years. He is a radio show host for, and I have the name of it, Gospel Music Machine, that is aired on CIUT 89.5 FM, which is a station that's out of one of the universities, University of Toronto, correct?
Yes, it is. Yeah,
okay,
University of Toronto.
Awesome. Courtney, thank you so much for being here as well.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here to share a little bit of knowledge.
And we're glad.
Very good. And we're hoping to unpack some of that knowledge to impart that onto our people who are watching today. Maybe one of the things that I want to start off by saying is for an artist to even think about getting their music submitted, we have to remember you get your performance rights organization, all the licensing with SOCAN or the CMRRA, all those things that need to be taken care of on the technical side of things prior to getting your song and trying to submit it. So those types of things, if you want to find out more about that, we have a couple of videos, just a few videos ago, maybe about 10 or 11 videos, where we talk about royalties, rights, and licensing. 2 videos. So there's lots of information to look at. So please go back and check those out. And then you can come and reflect on the notes you're going to make from today. And that's going to help you to really get your song going in the right direction. So I just wanted to cover those bases before we continue on.
That's a very good point, Dale.
Yeah,
very
absolutely. Okay, so let's talk about first of all, you guys. What a bit unpack a bit more about what your responsibilities are when it comes to your music. Let's talk about Courtney first. Tell us what do you do in your radio show? What are you doing as far as your title or your roles?
Okay, I am the founder of the Gospel Music Machine. That's aired in CIUT 89.5 FM. Funny, it was about, 34 years ago. I was walking along, taking the train, and I saw Now magazine that said they started a radio station on here, and I called them, and they gave me a show. And from then, I've been producing a 3-hour gospel show, giving local artists a platform that they could hear their music, because it was very difficult back then, to get your music heard. So I basically produce the show, host the show, and that's what I do.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And you said you've been doing this for 34 years now?
It's been 34 years every Sunday morning from way back when, you know, back on Sunday mornings when the bus didn't run that early, we used to use our bicycles, but I'm still here. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful. I enjoy what
That's
I do.
amazing.
So
There's a legacy in that, my friend. That's amazing. Good for you. Let's talk
Awesome.
about David. What about you?
Yeah, so for my role when it comes to music, we do music meetings bi-weekly at Life 100.3. So every couple of weeks, we're bringing before a committee a number of songs that are up for contention to be added to our station. And this primarily falls into what we play during the week on the station. So for us at Life, our format is very AC driven. AC being adult contemporary, pretty comparable to your top 40 station on secular radio. So we're considering songs that fall into that category, and then we specifically consider songs that fall into our Canadian category because we have to abide by the CRTC for a percentage of our content that is Canadian. So we make a point to consider those songs as well, and we do that every couple of weeks for our formats that are most popular, and then every so often we're also adding praise and worship songs that will play on our Sunday lineup, and we're adding retro songs and Southern gospel songs as well, and some hip hop songs in the evening.
That's awesome. I know that where we're located, we can only hear it online, but it is worth listening to.
Yes, it is indeed.
The variety is awesome. Absolutely awesome. I also know, David, that you do talk shows as well related to this. Now, I don't know if this is something that musicians get on as well, or is it something totally different?
Yeah, it depends. I think for us, we do like to bring musicians on air if we have a relationship with them. Mm-hmm. So sometimes I think maybe it's a bit of a misconception. Artists will be very quick. New artists that we've never had on air before will say, "Hey, I'd love to do an interview. I could give away some merchandise," and often in a very gracious and tactful way, we just say to them, "Listen, like, we appreciate your enthusiasm and your eagerness, but none of our listeners really know you yet. So that's not necessarily going to help us at this point. But after, having a song or two on the radio, then we'd love to get to that point where we could, set up an interview and get to know you a little bit more aside from what we hear in your song." So that does happen in that capacity.
Awesome.
It's interesting you mentioned that because some artists view radio as a dying source of media. Now, just hold and don't get upset. I don't necessarily agree because the radio has one of the best ways of targeting your local audience. We're talking local-based targeting. If you have a radio station in your area that's like for instance, if you're streaming or if you're doing things online, it's going all over the place, and it's there's not, people don't really know you. But if you're in your own city, if you have an opportunity to target, if you will, the location that you live in by use of your radio station. Your local radio station is really beneficial to you as an artist if you're able to get all the T's crossed and the I's dotted to get your song put a buzz out in your location. So how does it feel whenever I said that, some people think the radio is a dying source media? What's your reaction to that one?
Radio is alive and well. During the pandemic, radio was king, and radio is still king. After being in radio for all this years, being at CIUT and seeing how local artists are now doing full-time music in the gospel realm. I mean, we have radios alive and well, and every week, I'm getting three, four releases from Canadian artists who are releasing good music, and they're doing good. So for me, radio is not going nowhere. It's alive and well.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
What's your reaction? Yeah, what's your reaction, Dave?
Yeah, I think you touched on it. The local component is really key, and I think that's something that will forever transcend beyond the Spotifys of the world that don't have that. And as Courtney touched on, it's been so important during the pandemic. I think people are craving that sense of community, and radio offers that. And, you know, the songs are a way to further, you know, solidify this communal aspect. I know our listeners notify us when they hear someone, for instance, that's a worship pastor at their church on the radio. Like, that's a big deal to them because they know that person.
It's like, yeah, I know that guy. That's
yeah.
Yeah.
You don't get that other places, and there's so it's definitely valuable, and I don't think it's going anywhere. It was preached to me when I was a student at Fanshawe College. Pretty much every single Friday morning we had this class with the director of the program, and it was just like pretty much for an hour every single Friday. It was about why radio was never going to die. So I don't think I'll ever think it will after all those lectures.
That's amazing.
Now, after the pandemic, or even before the pandemic, some of the radio stations like Life, for example, I'm not sure if CIUT did this, but went into an online form. Actually, CIUT is an online format, is it?
No, we're live. We're not online format.
Okay.
We are in fact, we are 15,000 watts. So we go from Kitchener to Peterborough, Barrie to Cobourg, all the way down to Western. So we're blessed to get all that wattage, and, you know, we use it wisely. So we do online now because of the UFT lockdown, right?
So
you stream in UFT, yeah.
Yeah, but every week we must supply 3 hours of programming.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate it because it's a more work than going in, you know, but I love it. Yeah. I love it.
My question was going to be, thank you for that. My question was going to be, though, just like meeting, like people haven't had to resort to the Zoom meeting to kind of create that community, at least visually. Radio, even before the pandemic, was already doing some things online. Do you think radio is just going to continue kind of not bouncing, but having a hybrid? It's going to have the live as well as the stream, if that makes any sense?
I think both goes hand in hand because, you know, especially now, if you want to go back and listen to a show, you miss something. The benefit, it's always going back and do a podcast of every show, which to me, it's a big benefit because sometimes you're driving and you hear a song. Oh my goodness. You don't have time, but you can always go back and catch that song. But we stream, I'm sure a live stream as well. So it's nice when I'm home. You know, I could tune into some shows if I'm at work on my computer. So, you know, to me, it goes hand in hand, you know.
Yeah, I think you get kind of two different types of listeners when it comes to those that listen or organically to a radio versus online. I think those that are listening more organically are those that are more of commuter listeners. So however long their commute is, whether it's 5 minutes to an hour, that's when they hear us. Those that are listening online, I think, are those that are having the radio on for a longer period of time during their workday. So I think maybe we'll see a bit of an intersection, and some of those that aren't commuting anymore, because we're seeing more of this working from home economy, maybe will shift as they miss that local component. They miss sort of that interaction they had, because a lot of people are missing their commutes, and some of the things of listening to the radio station is part of that. But that's kind of the way that I see it right now, as far as what's driving those kinds of listeners.
Yeah, so that's probably something that's never going to stop. Even some particular radio stations may have to just change gears a little bit and do something a little different. That's probably not going to change, I think, after things go back to some sort of normalcy. Just this time, I just want to say, I want to thank everybody who's watching right now. Thank you for tuning in GMIHub Online. We are on YouTube and we are live, and we want to thank you for watching. If you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, we want to invite you to do that right away, and also hit the notification bell so you'll know the next time we put a video on. And we also want you to hit that thumbs up. That'd be great. And then just let you also know we have a website, gmihub.ca, and on there we've got some really cool things we want you to look at. We've got an up and coming compilation CD for Christmas. Yeah, I said it. Your music could be on our compilation. If you just go and submit your song, you'll see all the regulations and how to take care of all that. We'd love you to be a part of it. Also, the GMI Hub Happenings comes out once a month. It's an email that we send out, and we want that to be available to you. Just let us know if you want to get it, and we will email it to you. It's that simple. And so we're talking about getting your song on the radio. And, it's interesting when it comes to the way music is done now on radios. It's done digitally, which means it's downloaded off of a website. So they're called DMDs, that's digital music delivery systems. And these are done through radio stations. DMDs receive, their songs from companies, from artists. And so in your maybe not so much maybe in Courtney's system, I don't know if you have that type of a downloads, but I know that 100.3 would have a lot of that. What percentage of music comes in like the old days in a CD format?
Well, I would say about 20%, because 20% of the music I'll get a CD, and now the rest is email.
Okay, digital, yeah.
Digital, and I pass it over to the station, and we keep a copy because of how we produce in the show. But that's how we get the music. But I guess because we're campus radio, we're not restricted as
the big boys,
big boys,
Yes.
So we kind of have a personal relationship with the artist. I will get to the station at 7:00, and they'll be waiting for me in the car with their music.
Yes, sir. Here's my CD. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's basically how we get our music as well.
So David, what percentage of music is CD'd?
I would say less, maybe 5%, and I would like that number to be even smaller than that if I could have it my way. Sheerly out of convenience too.
Yeah, I know. Because I remember back in the day we had cupboards full of CDs. It's like crazy, shelves and shelves. Oh, it was nuts.
I mean, go ahead.
It's funny, I have some CDs, but I'm trying to find the music even on Spotify or say some of the other digital download, and I can't find it. I have to go back to my CD because they some of the artists, they forgot to upload it, or they don't have the rights to.
Right. Yeah.
I was going to ask, like, speaking of artists and CDs, or not CDs, but just when they submit their songs, like, I've heard two things. I've heard that radio stations accept songs directly from artists, and then I've also heard that radio stations prefer to work with artist managers or the equivalent of the CD babies kind of idea. How does that work for your stations?
I think if there's a promoter involved and they have a relationship with the radio station, it's going to help them. Like, I'm more likely to flag that email. I try my best to seriously consider every artist's submission that is framed towards us at the station. But that does give them credibility, and they have that relationship, which is definitely a good option to go with. And they sort of already will know what the radio station is asking for. So there's kind of maybe a screening process that's already taking place before it gets to me. So I already have this expectation that there's something that's produced well, that's, meets Canadian requirements, for instance. Whereas if you're just coming at it as a solo artist, as long as you're a good administrator, then that can work. But you just got to kind of know what we're looking for a little bit more.
In my case, folks just hit me up. Folks just hit me up with the song, and that's it. Just send me an email. I'm a promoter of Canadian music, right? So because I love promoting Canadian music, as long as the lyrics are right and the quality is good, I will send them back sometime to bring it up to make sure that it has the right level, and I always give them a play, so, to encourage them. Sometimes, as encouragement, because somebody encouraged me, so I try to encourage them because I have a different platform. And then when they becomes better, then they will go to my brother here, you know what I'm saying? you know, and bring it up, you know, but that's how it is. You have to be, I think you have to be a foot walker and a door knocker.
Right.
Then, you know, sometimes you have to be bold. You know, that's what I discovered. If you're not bold, you don't get anywhere.
Right. It's been said that agents, recording reps, and music directors say, I won't consider an artist who is less in the social media than I do. Less in social media than I have. And then that might sound like it's unfair, but standard, but they have a point. Your music is good enough, then you've already got a fan base behind you. And with that, the music has an opportunity to go on a radio station that knows people are going to want to hear it because they've got a fan base. And that, I mean, that's not always the case. There's sometimes where artists produce a project or a CD, and as the music director, you might say, I really want to push this artist because he's got good content and I want to give him some exposure. And that's also comes into play, I know. So in that light, what would an artist have to think about when they're submitting a song to let's say, to either one of you? Courtney, yours is probably more like somebody in the car reaching you a CD, but is there something that they would have to, that you'd listen to? Of course, maybe that's probably your pin right there.
I guess what they do, once they email it to the station or email it to me at gospelmachine@gmail.com, I will listen to it. And if it meets the quality, at least it's radio playable, right? Then, you know, I will always play. I have no qualms about any restrictions because of my audience is vast, because we are a listener supported station. Right? So because I come from that angle, I find when I feature local artists, I bring them in. It gives them encouragement, as well as it broadens our base as a community station, because we are a community station. You know, so our approach is basically we support the community. So if it's good quality product and it meets at least the mastering standard, we'll play it. So we're pretty liberal when it comes to that.
With life.
Yeah, with life, I would say it's helpful for them to be up on some of the language that you guys alluded to at the beginning. You were setting back to a previous video with, you know, is the song Canadian? A lot of artists don't know if their song is Canadian, and that's, I mean, you've got to be pretty darn talented to get a song in our American category. So if you know you're Canadian off the bat, and you can tell me that, and you can prove that you qualify for Maple with the music, artist, performance, lyrics, if you can hit at least two of those points, that's helpful for us. Another thing is I think is just like knowing the station that you're sending it to. There is, by and large, you know, some crossover from stations that play Christian music across the country. But there are, you know, some differences too. Like, for instance, I mentioned hip hop earlier. Like, we're one of the few Christian stations that play hip hop after 7 o'clock. We got Slam and Christian Hits on right now. So we will play those songs. I think sometimes there's a lack of familiarity of what the station plays. And so, like, getting some objective analysis from someone that knows radio, that knows music, if the song could fit there. Because so many times we'll hear from listeners saying, like, God gave me that song. Your listeners need to hear that song. And I'm sure that they would benefit from hearing that song, but just not on a radio station necessarily. Like, is the cold hard truth, because we believe that God has given all of the artists these songs, and we need to pick ones that follow along with the vision that our station has. And so familiarity of what we play, if the song can fit, that's really, really helpful. Is it upbeat enough? So for us, we drive, like I said, AC at the beginning. Like, we're probably more up tempo than most Christian stations are in Canada. So we want songs that are poppy, that have a very defined chorus, that the production is up to par, that usually the producer has a history of getting songs in the radio. Song that is not 8 minutes long either. I had an artist send me a song a few weeks ago, and it was that longer than we'd like to play, but she was kind enough to cut it down, and we put it on. And we're happy to make those adjustments, but just sort of knowing what, you know, a radio song, having a jock intro built into the song too is also helpful. You know, sometimes these 0-second intros, it's fine if you want to start, if the artist wants to start singing off the bat, but no one's maybe necessarily going to know who they are because there's no time for us to talk about them. That's also something that can be really helpful. So those are a few factors that I would say to consider before sending a song to a radio station like us.
And one thing I must say is the time. Many folks can consider the time because especially in commercial radio, you know, everything is formatted. And if you go past, I don't know if it's 350 now or 412, then, you know, you could be you will not make the chain. I know when I go to the festival in the States and they really hammer down the time factor. Know the station, know the time, listen to it. Take a time to listen to the station and to see, you know, that news at 7 o'clock, 7:15 is maybe traffic and 7:30 is news. So if they're gonna put 3 songs in there, you better make your 3:12 or 3:15. I'm sure Life 105 could talk about it some more because that's very important to me because they get some song 5 minutes and 12, 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 7 minutes. That's a lot of time, you know, to me for a song. Even with us, we try to keep it at least 4 minutes and 50 seconds.
All right. David, how long is this jock intro? How long, what's an ideal length, you know?
I would say an ideal jock intro would be at least 5 seconds.
5 seconds.
I think 10 is a good amount.
I've just never heard that term before. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, they do this, the talk to the post thing. They want to make sure that
that's
they
right.
talk up to the first lyric. So yeah, it's a good thing. It's true.
Yeah. Yeah, and usually for us, like we will take songs. This in the old-fashioned days, we've kind of changed it a little bit. We'll take a song, usually gets sent to us, and we will actually go back to the intro of the song where there's not someone singing, and we'll bring that level down too, so that DJ can be more readily heard. So that intros are really important in radio.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very true.
That's good to know. Very good to know. So you've mentioned some factors, and I know, Courtney, before we went on live, you mentioned one of the biggest mistakes or one of the biggest errors that you found with some songs that were submitted to you had to do with mastering. Can you go on that again?
Yeah, because when I say mastering, folks will spend a lot of money recording the music, especially the local artists. And then when it comes to mastering, they're cheap out of mastering. Mastering is so important because you have to go to a proper mastering house and understand what the specs to send to the radio station, right? They have to know, because when you put your music on and it goes through the system and it's pumping, and then the next song come up and it's your song, and at least it's not at that level, to me, it causes problems. Then you have to adjust. You always adjust the levels. But I think when you master your product, everything is balanced. So you have a chance that when a program director can listen to it and boom, it's properly mastered, properly balanced, you know, you can even get a airplay because it sounds good sometimes. Not because of quality, but because it sounds good, and because it's music's a feeling. You know, if they feel it and they think the audience will like it, but you have to create that, make sure that they have no mistakes for playing your music technically, because they will say, well, it doesn't sound good enough. It's because it needs to be mastered to bring it the level up.
And that's a good point. I wanted to bring that up because we actually did a show on mastering, a whole show on mastering and the value of mastering. So go back to our YouTube channel. You'll see the list under Studio Talk. You'll see one called Mastering with Larry, and I don't remember his last name. Oh gosh, with Larry. And you will learn the value of mastering and what that's all about. But thank you for bringing that up, Courtney. I just wanted you to share that. Are there any other things that artists should be doing or including with their submission of their song to the radio stations? Or is there a particular format that the stations prefer?
But for us, we do MP3 or WAV, as long as the quality it meets at 190 and up, or some information about you is very important. At least just send us a page of the songwriters, especially when we have to do some of the filings. We still have to do some of the manual filings, as well as some stations are automatic. But in my case, we need the information. So we could talk about you, see just a little bio. No, don't make it long. Just a little bio that goes with the music.
Is that the same with you, with Life, David, that you need a bio or some other information about the artist when they submit a song?
Yeah, I would say that's helpful. Like it's definitely, valuable. I usually ask them where they're from. I think in our case, if you're in Central Ontario, I think you go up the, you have a better shot at getting on the radio too, because you're known. You have that connection. You're one of ours. We'll go out and find information about you. So that's one of the struggles, I think, in the Christian music industry. There's not a lot of information out there in general. So yeah, if you send us a bio, that's really helpful. If you have any sort of social media presence, as Dale already mentioned, like that's helpful. Not even just to show you have a fan base, but just so you can give us things to talk about you, because we can run dry pretty quickly.
Now, in hand with that, Dave, thank you for bringing that up. I was thinking about some artists. Now, I'm not trying to put anybody down, but some people may say that they think they don't have to pay for promotions just because their music is so good. And so it's like, what world do you live in? There's so many artists out there that have music on so many promotional platforms just to get them notoriety, so that whenever they're in the public, people know who they are. I would emphasize not only is it important to get your licensing and royalties and all those things squared away, but do some investment in marketing and get your product into the minds and the hearts of people. And then when it's on the radio, they'll want to hear it, and that's a lot of work. It is. And the radio will also help generate that as well. But if you make good food and you want to sell it in Walmart, they're gonna charge you to sell it. It's not that the product's not good. It's a good product. It's just the way the process is. So it's just, you'll get yourself a larger following, I think, if you're with radio station, and that's true. But you need to invest in those promotional and marketing concepts. And we have done a video on those as well, promotion marketing. If you want to check out some of our stuff, go into GMIHub online, and you'll see there's some great resources there.
I think
Go ahead.
I think if you live locally, either in Barrie or down in Toronto, it's good as an artist, if you're releasing a CD, to team up with a radio station. Even put $1,000 or $1,500 away, you do a CD release, spend the money on the radio. Because what that does, it gives the radio, they may not know you, but here you are going to release your CD, and you're going to spend some money to promote yourself. You know what I'm saying? It will create some interaction, to help. I think artists got to understand it's a two-way street. If you are going to release a CD and you know that you want your play, you have to just go to the radio station and say, listen, I got some promotion money. I'm releasing my CD. Buy some ads, you never know. So I think, go a little extra, as you said, with some promotion, support the local radio station, and then the benefits walk two ways, I think.
So I just want to clarify. So teaming up, you're saying buy advertising with the radio station to promote your music? Yes,
I think if you're doing a concert, like a CD release, many local artists do CD releases, right? When the CD's coming out. So you do a CD release and team up with the local radio station and promote your concert on the radio. It's a new CD release, you're generating interest. And not only that, you may impress the program director with, you know what I mean? So I think you have to kind of be more creative. I've seen creative things in Toronto, a local artist do a CD release, and every year she has like 3,000 people coming up. She teamed up with a radio station. So I think we have to be creative and work with the radio station. So don't just think that because you bring your CD to play, come from a different angle. You know what I'm saying? And create something and work with the station. Put $1,500 away, plan a concert and work with the radio station. And never know what can happen.
Absolutely. David, you were going to say something there?
I don't want to derail this conversation about promotions and marketing, but back to Cheryl's question about if there's anything else to include for the artists about sending to the radio station. It's not necessarily something to include, but I think just to consider and to keep in mind is, to have a wider scope than just the one station that you're sending your song to. And also to keep in mind that you are unique, and we don't want to in any way squash or, make you go in a 180 on the way that God has wired you as an artist. Like we're talking a lot right now about, logistics and structure and, formality, and all that stuff is very important because this is an industry and there's a level of professionalism that needs to be met. At the same time, we've had artists reach out to us before and we've recognized their talent, but their format just isn't, it's not AC enough. It sounds more country or something to that effect. I mean, right now, lots of people would know of Starfield, right? They were a very well-known worship band out of Winnipeg, and the Neufeld brothers split, and then Tim Neufeld and the Glory Boys got going in a bit of a bluegrass way. Didn't really fit for us. I think we might have played one of their songs, but now they're playing on country radio. Like good for them. Like it's a good fit. I hear it sometimes. I'm proud of them. I think sometimes artists can be so devastated when they find out that they are not going to be on a station like Life, but they can step back and maybe take that as an opportunity to grow and to sort of reassess and circle back to where their gifting is and how they like to make their music. I mean, it's one thing to get it on the radio, but maybe it's just not this particular station. So I think that's something else to keep in mind.
Yeah,
Great
I think
point.
you also talked about that earlier. Listen to the radio station that you're sending your music to,
Right.
to see, does your format fit? It's like you don't want to put a big pair of shoes on a small pair of feet.
That's right,
You want
yeah.
to make sure that it actually works with that format.
If you are just tuning in right now, you are listening to a conversation about how to get your song on the radio. If you are a songwriter, or if you're a musician, or you know someone who's a songwriter or a musician, you're going to want to tune into this conversation. We are talking with David Mann from Life 100.3, who is the assistant program director as well as a host on Life 100.3. We've also been talking to Courtney Clive Williams from CIUT 89.5 FM, he's also, actually the host of Gospel Music Machine, which is a 3-hour program on that station. And we're getting some ideas on what is needed and hopefully some insight on what is needed to get on the radio station. If you have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat. We'd be happy to ask the questions here. That's why these guys are here. And if you want to know more about GMIHub, go to our website, gmihub.ca, and you will find lots of information about what we're about, how we like to encourage community unity, community mentorship, and talent growth. You'll also know that we're doing a Christmas project, and we have extended a deadline. We were looking for song submissions, original Christmas song submissions. We originally said we wanted them by June 13th. But with all the lockdowns and recognizing that studios haven't even had a chance to open up, we have decided to extend that. So we have extended it, get this, till July 31st. July 31st is when we're, as the date that we're accepting song submissions. So if you plan to send something in, drop a line to us, go to gmihub.ca, and we'll be happy to learn more about you and look out for your song. Okay, I did a longer commercial than I should have, right? With the radio stations, but I want to ask this one question as well. What are some ways an artist can make their song or their submission stand out, given the possibility that you probably get a lot of songs probably on a daily basis, right? Is there any way that someone can make their submission stand out outside of having a promoter?
Okay, from my perspective, I think what an artist can do is to give me just a couple lines about the song itself, right? Because it's a little bit about the song itself, and just, you know, if they could include in, especially in the social media, what they, because some of them already released it already in social media, how it's doing. And I think because I'm not a graphics person to say I'm looking for super graphics, you know, but and then I will listen to it. I just want, and for you, for the first 30 or say 1 minute, the song should be at least saying something to me. So I think they should, you know, make sure that the song sounds good and it's Bible based to me because of what I am playing gospel music. So I keep it very, very, I don't go outside of that platform. I keep it within that platform. I know there's a lot of message music out there, but if it's good message music, and I'll play it, but it has to be Bible based and at least have a good message for the public.
Okay, David, any thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know if there's anything I can necessarily add to this. I think just other things we've touched on already. You know, if there's a local connection, you know, you'll stand out if you make that. Building relationships in any line of work is valuable. Brief bio is helpful. Sending it as an MP3. Showing some familiarity of the station, citing that in the email, keeping it brief too, not so long that it can be intimidating to read. And yeah, I think that's
So
sort of the gist of it.
would that line up with some of the things that some people would do that you might think that's a big mistake, that does not help them get their song to the next level? So is there some things that maybe you're thinking, okay, guys, this is something that I've noticed that's a mistake that you might make. I've seen been made before. What things should you have included that you didn't? You know, that may come up from time to time.
Yeah. Yeah, I think just you know, like understanding what, you know, the CRTC regulations is helpful, because that's, I mean, I love to educate and inform our artists, but it is kind of time consuming to, like, you know, to go back and forth and to explain what maple means. Like if you know that ahead of time, that's, I guess, like we said before, an advantage of going to a promoter, having that history. I think that's a mistake, and that's sometimes we'll delay even getting on air because it takes time to have that conversation. Like, we're not going to play you until we know that you're Canadian, and if you're not, you know, keen on your email, then that might get dragged out and it might get delayed. That would be something. Yeah, having like a professional headshot of yourself is important too. Especially we talked about being online before. So one thing for us is every single song that gets added, we also add it to our library for our app and our website. And with that, we need a picture, high resolution picture. So we'll go searching for one if we can't find it. But if you have one that's, you know, that's there, that's professional, that, you know, is appropriate for our audience, then that's helpful as well. So I think just including those things, yeah, I would say that, aside from what we've already touched on, would be just a couple of things that can help you get a little further up the order of priority for consideration.
Now, some people have actually asked this question of me whenever I was doing radio, but they said, how much does it cost to get your song on the radio? So for the artist, is there any cost?
Zero.
Yeah, nothing from us. I mean, you're actually going to make money if it goes in the radio.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Now,
this is for that.
Yeah, exactly. The work comes in before that. That's where the money for promotion, marketing, and all that kind of stuff. Now, you have these, like you said, bi-weekly meetings. Some stations have them every week. They have a team meeting about submissions for songs to be downloaded onto their playlist. So what kind of things do you think, if I was to be an artist, what kind of things do I need to do to get that song into that meeting? I
mean, yeah, like just like fitting the vision of the station and having a professional sound. You know, there's lots of factors within the song itself. I mean, the production's has to be top quality. We've kind of mentioned that. Yeah, you also have to have the vetting credentials. It's got to be Canadian. And then I would say, yeah, like we've mentioned it before, Courtney, said it's got to be a song about God. And for us, for our license, what we have with the CRTC is it's got to point to a higher power. So if your song's not a Jesus song, then we're not really going to be able to consider it so much. And also like talent does matter. So, I mean, if you have a good production, that's helpful, but like the voice does make a difference. We've turned down songs that have had, that have been good outside of that, but the voice just hasn't been, strong enough. It would stand out like a sore thumb. And the lyrics too. Like we want, Courtney said, songs that are based in the Bible and songs that aren't, cheesy either. Like, especially with our daytime audience, I mean, they can pick them out if it's repetitive and if it's not, doesn't have a little bit of substance to it. Like repetition is important and it's valuable and it's hearty and it's something you can grab a hold of. And I think it's very transparent and, we can confide in those things. But like, a song that is, not presenting God in the highest of ways is maybe not going to be, so hot for us when we bring it to a meeting.
When you say top quality, because I was said a few times, it sounds subjective, but do radio stations actually list what that means in terms of quality? In other words, I know Courtney, you talked about mastering, but is there kind of a number system or something that mastering artists or engineers can kind of go for to say that this will fit for the radio?
I don't know if if you can quantify it. I think it's, it's one of those things that it's hard to boil down. It's more often caught than taught, but it's something that you learn and you get groomed in, and it becomes our skill set. But I think we can recognize it. And I think a lot of an average, listener, someone that listens to enough music could pick out pretty quickly if they know if it's professional or not. And usually if they have a history of production, and I think, we can just tell talent pretty quickly too. Like an artist that has done pretty cool things in Christian radio, I don't even think he's really going for that. He's kind of an outlier and an anomaly as to what you're talking about, Dale, and really working on his promotions, but he's just so talented. So when we heard Cortez, when I first heard one of his songs, and it was like, okay, this guy's incredible. He's Canadian. We can put him on the radio. And then I'm connected with a bunch of stations that play similar hip hop Christian music in the States, and they picked him up too. And he kind of blew up, and now he's doing his own thing, and he gets tons of Spotify listeners. And we play his songs when they fit the vision, but he doesn't really do much. But he also does a lot of the production there. He just figures it out. Some people are just talented. Yeah. And so it's just getting around people that are talented. In his case, I don't know who that is, but in the average Joe that's just trying to work hard is scoping that person out, is just knocking on doors, as we mentioned earlier, and finding that person, learning from them, getting groomed, so that you can then do it by yourself. I mean, great example out of Peterborough in Ontario, 1,000-foot crutch. They worked hard. There's a poster right behind me on my wall there. You can see of those guys. Trevor McNeven, considered one of the hardest working in Christian music in Canada. And sure enough, there's a young guy at his church at Selwyn Outreach Center, Jason Dunn, has some buddies and they want to make some music. Well, how does he get into that? Well, he knows Trevor. Trevor puts in a word for him. Trevor shows him the ropes. And it's finding those kind of people. It's not every day that you'd have two of the biggest Christian bands in Canada come out of the same church, but that's what happened because, you're getting groomed, you're being in that environment. And I think, it's seeking out and it's chasing that and having that drive that is important. So, we as a radio station, we want to be a resource to point you to those people. But there is, I think, some onus that you can do on yourself to finding that and taking advantage of the contacts you have in developing a bit of a repertoire.
Yeah. Thank you for mentioning Jason Dunn. He's actually one of our panelists a while back. If you want to go watch one of our videos, we had Jason. He's talked about Hawk Nelson and the whole thing. So that's really, I'm glad you brought that up because I want everybody at home to take the time to look through our videos because there's lots right there. And thank you so much for tuning in. I mean, right now, GMIHub Online, we're talking about how to get your song on the radio. If you're an artist, if you're a producer, and these are some really good things you should be taking notes about to help you to get your song to the best of your ability to get your song on the radio. And I want to thank both of you guys for being here today. We're not quite done yet, but I just wanted to just say this is great. Thank you for tuning in, for watching. If you like the video, then please put the thumbs up there, and subscribe if you haven't done already. We'd appreciate that. That really shows us love whenever you subscribe and like the video and hit the notification bell, and you'll know the next time we upload a video. That'd be really nice. Also, we have a website. It's GMIHub.ca. You can check that out and scroll down. There's lots of information. We got a compilation CD we're really excited about. You can submit a song if you've got a song finished. It's a song for Christmas now. It's a Christmas project, so it has to be a Christmas song. So if you've got a song that's ready to go, send it to us. We've extended the date. Cheryl, can you share with us a bit about the extension?
Yes, it's July 31st. We have extended it because, again, with all the lockdowns, studios really haven't been open to help facilitate. Everything's been kind of digitally online. But if you're the type of person that just loves to go inside the studio and work with your producers and engineers and so forth, well, they're slowly going to be opening up, and we want to give studios a chance to do what they like to do. And we also want to give you a chance to work with them as well. Again, building that community, that connection. So we are giving you until July the 31st. Now let us know that you're sending in a song so we can look out for it if you send a notification by July 19th, we'll at least know to look out for it, but we're not expecting it until July the 31st. And we're looking forward to receiving it. So to be honest with you, I think we've covered a lot. Like, unless guys, you have something else you'd like to add, but Dale says, wait.
Well, here's the thing. We talked about format loosely. I don't know if I can, because if I could drive home to the people who are producing their music, if they really understand what their format is. So sometimes an artist will have the disconnect from format and what. So I would like for artists to remember that the radio stations do this. That's what they do. And whenever they're taking your song and they recognize that it doesn't fit their format, sometimes it's a hard pill to swallow because it won't get airplay. So how would you what recommendation would you give to an artist who wants to submit a song? Like we talked about listening to it, but what kind of criteria should they be thinking about as an artist when they're taking that song and trying to pitch it towards a radio?
I think you have to do a little bit of research. Every station's different. Every station catered to a different market. You have the country station, the rock station, the hip hop. They play hip hop. A Christian station is probably the only station that plays country, hip hop, and all these different genres all in one. So I think you have to do your research first. Just don't send it because you're a Christian artist, because you're going to waste time. Because if it doesn't fit the format, they're not going to play, because they have an audience. At the end of the day, they have an audience, and they have tested their audience. They know what their audience want to hear because they have a base with their audience. So I think they just need to do a little bit of research. And if I play mostly gospel, it's a gospel song, send it to me, right? If David plays hip hop and he plays worship or AC, send it to him. Don't bother waste time and energy and send it to where you're waiting for God to allow the DJ to play, right? But send it, to wherever they have that same format of music. I think that's very important, because I have lots of music sometimes that I get, but I know I try to fit it in, but sometimes, it just doesn't fit based upon how I program my show.
Yeah. So Dave, you must have to kind of educate people as well, right?
Yeah, for sure. You got to educate them and remind them of the vision. And usually I like to cite a couple of artists, or I might even share some videos of other Canadian artists that have been on the station, or if it's a case where maybe their song fits the vision to an extent, but we weren't able to pick it, I might send them the song that we did pick that week. Here's kind of what you're up against. This is kind of, a bit of a something to shoot for. So that's one of the ways that we try to educate.
Yeah, very true. All right, now I have one last question that I love to ask. So this is my sum it up in 3 points. All right, so if you had 3 points that you could say to an artist who I would say most of our viewers are independent artists. So that into context with probably they have a mid-budget, maybe a low budget, but they have a good enough song for airplay. But what 3 things would you give to them? Three pieces of advice to encourage them to what the next step should be for them. If you got 3 points.
I would say get good musicians, get a good mixer, and have a good mastering engineer.
Okay, and Dave, after that point, yeah. You can say something we talked about already if you want to touch on something.
Yeah. Oh, well, you know what? Maybe just a couple of points that I thought of that I haven't mentioned yet. It's just the harsh reality is when it comes to listening to an artist's song, we typically only listen to the first minute.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Maybe not even that much. If we can detect very quickly if it's a song that we're not going to play on the radio. So I would say make sure that it starts strong. Another thing that I think is important that we haven't mentioned yet that I think it would be advice to an artist is reach out to us before you go through all stages of production, because it's a lot of money. I mean, we talk about going on radio isn't like, we're not exchanging checks when you get a song on our station or on, Courtney's show, but it's a big investment to go through the productions. Sometimes you're investing $10,000 into a song and it might not get picked up. So if you do think that you have a unique vision, if you think that you're an artist that could be wired for a song that could play on our station or somewhere else, bring us into that conversation. We'll give you some feedback after your first demo. We'll be a bit of a soundboard for you. There's only so much of a soundboard that we can be, but we'll be there because we hate to, someone puts all this money in and this is kind of their finished product and we say, yeah, your chorus isn't very defined, or, it's just lacking a little bit more. It needs a bit more edginess. It's not upbeat enough. If you just had a bit more of a 4 to the floor in the middle of the song, and they got to go back and they got to put that much more money in. So, I think it's a bit of a humbling thing, and you help build that relationship early. So those are a couple of things that I would say that haven't been mentioned yet. And if I can make a third point, I just say that mentorship is valuable. I think it's been threaded into our conversation tonight, but seek that out, find others that have done it. You don't lead until you follow first.
Wow, that's great advice. That's awesome. Thank you, Dave. Thank you very much. That's awesome indeed. And I think that second point you made is really good. Have a relationship with your radio station. Take some time to get to know the staff, the music director, and get their input, get their feedback, because all they want to do is help you succeed. That's all they want to do. That's very true.
Very enlightening too, because I don't think I'll say that's news for me. Radio stations, I would have thought just want the end result. So thank you for sharing that, David. It's nice to know that for an artist, hey, there's someone else that can be on your team, which is someone at the radio station who can give you that feedback. Hey, this is what we're working on. Do you think this would work? What would you suggest to make this radio playable? And if you're open to getting that feedback, awesome, So I think that's really awesome. Courtney, David, thank you so much for sharing all of this. It's been very, very helpful. I'm hoping we've answered a lot of questions. If you do have any more questions, though, audience, please send it to us in the chat. We'll be happy to send it to Courtney and David. And I'm sure they would be happy, as I'm kind of putting words in their mouth right now, to answer those questions if they were to come. We also, once again, want to encourage you to like and subscribe on the YouTube channel, and make sure you watch all the different videos that we have on here. We talk about many marketing things, which was threaded through this conversation. We talk about technical stuff, which is threaded through this conversation as well. So please go ahead and check out the different episodes that we have had in the past. You will learn a lot from them as well. Share the experience. Go ahead and share the experience. I'm sure there's many people that you know in your circle that would want to watch these. If you want to know more about GMIHub, go to gmihub.ca, where you learn all about what we are about. You'll learn about our programs. You'll learn about the events that we do. And also follow us on social media. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We're on Twitter, as well as YouTube, as you know. So again, I want to say thank you for joining us. Hope you have a good week. Next week is Studio Talk Week, where we talk about the DAW. So bring your questions, not the, but DAW. Bring your questions, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Again, thank you, David. Thank you, Courtney. Thank you, Dale.
God bless.
Have a good night.